All right, welcome in everybody. Today I'm going to be going over my run in the Draft League World Cup where I represented Team Portugal. Now, if you don't know what the Draft League World Cup is, it's basically just a Draft League tournament where players are separated into different teams based on essentially their location. So we have all these different teams here. We have a couple of teams from the US. So you have Team US, West, and Midwest, and South, and East. You have all these different teams. You have some teams from Europe. You have the rest of the world team. Now, this is the team that we had for the tournament. This is the Portugal lineup here. And if you didn't know, there was actually some big drama with Portugal before the tournament even started. Basically, TLDR, this Belith guy took over as captain because last year Portugal didn't do too well. I didn't play, but I'm not going to say that was the reason why. Maybe it was. But essentially, this guy here, he's a major douchebag. He has a giant ego. He thinks he's better than everybody else. And essentially, he's a dickhead, right? So the fact that this guy took over as captain and said some really mean things about the players made a bunch of our regular draft players not want to play in this tournament. So this is the lineup, and obviously we're missing a lot of good players, essentially players who mainly play draft. A lot of these guys are just like smoke on players, VGC players, so it's definitely not a very strong lineup. But going into this, my goal was just to try to go 3-0, and if we made it out of the pool stage, then perfect, we made it out of the pool stage. But if not, I wasn't going to worry about that too much because I know our roster could have been so much better than it actually is. We do have some good players, right? I know Hycrox is a pretty good player. He's probably the best player we have on the team, to be honest. I know he plays in a lot of like DPL stuff and DCL, so I had really high hopes for him. Missouri, I did not know too much, but over the course of the tournament, I actually found out this guy's kind of the GOAT. He's a pretty decent player, and he's really good at like team supporting. Our captains were Belith and M. Souza. Now, I didn't really know Belith at all, and I kind of regret meeting him altogether because it was not a fun experience. But M. Souza was our co-captain, and he's basically the one who really did most of the heavy lifting here when it comes to captain duties. Just to give you guys an idea, this Belith guy, he didn't help at all with putting drafts together. Once the drafts were done, he asked to be benched. He ghosted. He didn't help team support at all. And then he came and played week 3 because we needed somebody because all of our players weren't available to play. So not great, but I feel Stabby I don't really know too much about. Frixel I know was a very good showdown player, so hoping he can pull through with a couple of wins. Me, obviously, you guys know me. Mina Tevis, I don't really know, and I mean, I don't really know any of the other guys. So the only player I really knew going into this was like Hycrox. I knew of M. Souza, but the main player I knew about was Hycrox. So the way this works is the teams are split into 4 pools. Top 2 advance. You play everybody in your pool once. Top 2 advance and make it out into the playoffs, and then playoffs is single round elimination from there. There are 8 games played every week, so there's, in our case, going to be 3 benched players, 8 games. If you win 5 games, you win the series. If you win 4, you get a tie. And if you don't win more than 4, then you lose the week, basically. Now, when it came to drafting, the way that drafting actually worked is you could just go ahead within your team. You guys had to go ahead and put together 10 drafts. And the draft that I put together and the one that I was going to be using mainly for this season is actually this middle one right here, where we can see a Tera Zarude, Iron Valiant, Garchomp, Petrant, Klefki, Mesprit, Terra Cragnal, and Terra Lantern. Now, yes, this is a team with Tera Zarude, Iron Valiant, and Garchomp. I don't know how, but I mean, I claimed Tera Zarude because I really wanted to use that guy, but I don't know how after that, nobody really showed much interest in using like Iron Valiant or Garchomp, so I was like, okay, I'll just pair Tera Zarude with Iron Valiant and Garchomp, and like this team is like absolutely busted. This top 3 is like absolutely busted, so if I lose with this team, then I actually might suck. Garchomp gives you good hazard support as well as just, you know, good ground type, strong like dragon type, can be a win condition, can be a good scarf set. Iron Valiant, super reliable as a revenge killer, as just like a breaker. So the top 3 really ensured all the offense that I needed on a team. I felt Tera Zarude can literally just do anything. It can like sweep with Sword Stance, Trailblaze, it can be bulked up. So that guy is super strong. And then after the top 3, I just wanted to like kind of support the team as best as I could. So I got Klefki to pick up spikes and as a secondary fairy because Valiant doesn't really count. Good steel type, sets up screens. Prankster T-Wave for speed control is also super good. Then we got Petrant because we can spin block pretty reliably the hazards we get up with Klefki. And then Petrant just like it beats Pokemon that it really shouldn't beat, and we'll have a couple of showcases of that in the replays I'll show here in a second. Mesprit was mainly there because it's a good rocker, ground immunity, which my team kind of struggled with up until this point, and then also Healing Wish. Healing Wish, I think, with Pokemon like Zarude is a must-have on your draft because Zarude is kind of one of those Pokemon that you can just throw out early game. You set up, you break through a bunch of things, and then you can Healing Wish it up back in the late game and just like, you know, win the game from there. So I really wanted to have Healing Wish with Zarude. Healing Wish is a move that I've really learned to love. I think it's not necessary with every Pokemon, but with Pokemon such as like Tera Zarude, Gouging Fire, Terrapago, stuff like that, I really think you do want a Healing Wisher. Then the last two picks, so Lantern was the main one that I really wanted, just because I looked at my team and like offensive water types really had a pretty good field day against my team. Like it would have to force me to run like a defensive Zarude in a lot of the matchups, and I didn't really want to. Like if you look at a Palafin, you look at an Ogerpon, you look at a Greninja into my team at the moment, looks a little scary. So Lantern was there. Tera, just because like I had the points to make it Tera. Not that I will Tera anything that's not the Zarude. I don't think that will ever happen. But the Lantern was there for the water matchups. And then Cryogonal, honestly, it's just like it was the best thing there at 3 points. It gives me a Rapid Spinner. Spoilers, I didn't end up bringing Cryogonal in any of the games, even though it might have a good matchup. But it's just so hard to justify bringing Cryogonal over any of my 7 other Pokemon. Even Lantern was going to be pretty hard to fit instead of my other 6, but Lantern at least had a purpose on the team. Cryogonal did absolutely not have a purpose on the team at all. The rest of the teams, I mean, you guys can look through the rest of the teams if you like. Like I help make them. These last 2 teams were essentially just like Pokemon that were left over, and we just try to build drafts with them. But basically, we assigned like 8 starters, and like everybody was going to be in charge of like building their own team. I helped them build, but this is the main draft that I worked on, and this is the only draft that I used throughout the entire tournament. So with that being said, we can get into the pool stage. Now, I don't want to go over into the standings tab just because it will spoil the results, and I don't want to do that. But just so you guys know, we basically got slotted in with 3 of the toughest teams in the entire tournament. So the favorites going into this tournament, I'd say US West because they won last year. Canada's really strong because they have good players. Rest of the world is basically Oceania plus a couple other like really strong players. Team UK was also one of the favorites to win because they have a really good captain core and some really good players. US Midwest is pretty strong as well, as is US South. And the 3 teams that we got in our group was Team UK, Team US Midwest, and Team US South. So we literally got slotted with one of the 3 hardest teams we possibly could. So if I didn't have much hope in getting out of the group stage before the matchups were revealed, after the pools came out, it was going to be super tough, but I was going to do my best to win my games and to try to help support the team, basically. So with that being said, we're going to go into week number 1, and week number 1 was against Team UK. All right, so here's the matchup for week 1. We're going up against Team UK, like I said, and we're playing Nazarmat. I don't really know too much about them, but Addy was the captain for Team UK, and I asked for some information, and Addy said that they could be pretty good. I know that they played in DCL, the latest one. I know that they may have played in like DPL and stuff like that, but essentially I didn't really know much about him going into the game, but I was determined to do my absolute best. And this tournament, I really wanted to like sort of prove myself that I was a pretty good player. Past few weeks where I haven't really been uploading anything onto YouTube, I have been grinding Showdown, and like I've been playing in a couple of team tournaments and playing in some Showdown leagues. So I'm really hoping that I can improve as a battler, and that all started here with this matchup. Now, we do see a matchup with Palafin, the Chi-Yu, the Tera Chi-Yu, which is pretty scary, and the Latios, those being the big 3. I'm not gonna lie, when I first looked at this team, I was like, this kind of feels like it's a leftover team because there's a random Slithering here. Gastrodon isn't the greatest Pokemon. Even Fortress, I think, is a very subpar spinner most of the time. But essentially, looking at this matchup right here, I kind of felt pretty good going into it. Like outside of the Palafin, which is exactly why we picked up the Lantern, I didn't really feel threatened by anything else. Like obviously Tera Chi-Yu does basically just click a button and kill me, but I have potentially 3 things realistically, because I'm not bringing Cryogonal, but I have 3 things that are faster than it and that can revenge kill it. If it's Scarf, then obviously it can be a little bit more annoying to deal with, but I made sure to have some counter measures for that as well. Latios I felt pretty well equipped for. I had a Klefki and a Mesprit, so that shouldn't really leave too much room for Lottie to do too much. The Hatterene was actually probably the one thing that gave me the most trouble in mocks, just because like a Calm Mind set could really put in work against the team that I specifically brought. Like I have a Klefki and a Petrump, but if they manage to set up like Trick Room as well, then it just becomes a very awkward matchup. So that was something that I was scared of. Everything else like Petrun, Slitherwing, Gastrodon, Fortress, they all are just kind of food for my Zarude realistically, so I wasn't too worried about that. Like people can, in mocks, a lot of people brought like Slitherwing as the Tera Zarude answer, and Slithering is just not really a Tera Zarude answer, to be honest, especially into the team that I brought specifically. But with that being said, let's just go over into the team. So First thing we have here is a Choice Scarf Iron Valiant. Like I said, I wanted to have some form of being able to revenge kill a Choice Scarf Chi-Yu reliably, and Choice Scarf Iron Valiant just seems like a pretty good like late game cleaner. Like they don't have great Moonblast switch-ins, honestly. Like Pecharunt and Fortress are like the main things, but I feel like I have pretty good ways of pressuring those, and all it takes is me just clicking like a Shadow Ball onto the Pecharunt, and that thing just gets 2-hit KO'd anyway, so I wasn't really too worried about it. The Scarf Valiant just gives me like really good speed control into everything. Banded Palafin can't revenge me if I'm at full HP, so wasn't really too worried about that. After then, the Garchomp set we have is a Habanberry Garchomp to potentially try to catch the Latios off guard, and we have a Sword Stance Scale Shot with Rocks and EQ. So this was going to be the lead. This is the mon that I led with in every single mock, and it worked quite well. Ideally, if there's no Hatterene, I just get up my Rocks turn 1, because then I can spin block the Fortress pretty reliably with my Pecharunt. But if the Hatterene was there, the plan was always to click Earthquake turn 1, because that would do about 40-something% to the Hatterene, which means next time it comes in, I can 2-hit KO it, and then I can set up my Rocks pretty freely from there. Swords Dance Scale Shot just looks like really, really strong into them. Like, honestly, if they bring like Fizdef Slithering, that could be a problem, but again, that does not beat my Zarude at all. And then, honestly, I have an Iron Valiant, I have a Pecharunt, I have a Klefki. I don't really feel like Slithering is going to be that big of a problem, so the idea was if I can Swords Dance a Scale Shot, and if he comes in with like a Scarf Latios to try to revenge me, I can live a hit thanks to my Habanberry no matter what. I think I'm pretty sure if I'm at full, I live a Choice Specs Draco Meteor from a Latios with this investment. I'm pretty sure I do. I'm pretty sure that's what the EVs are there. But this guy's the lead, and it's a pretty decent like early game breaker as well, if I decide to lead off with it and use it that way. Then we have our Tera Water Zarude. So Water I ended up going with just because it felt like it's a pretty good typing into Palafin and the Chi-Yu, even though like Dark Pulse is pretty spammable against my team overall. It still causes that sort of like 50-50 with Chi-Yu if I'm in with Zarude of do I Tera, do I not Tera, and they basically have to click. They have to make a decision, right? But this Zarude is like super bulky. We are knockoff Tera Blast, Jungle Healing, and Swords Dance. So this is why I said Slithering doesn't really beat Zarude 1v1, because it can be Will-O-Wisp, but I can just Healing Wish. Not Healing Wish, I can just Jungle Healing, right? And the Will-O-Wisp is gone, and then I can just beat it 1v1. Like, obviously it can run Whirlwind, but if I Swords Dance as it switches in and then I click Tera Blast, that guy is taking over 50%, so that's not really a check to Zarude. That's just sort of like delaying the problem. So this Zarude really looked like it could do really great things into this matchup. And that's just like going to be a theme throughout the entire tournament. Is like Zarude is probably, I mean, it's definitely top 3 Tera captains in my eyes, but in terms of like building, I had so much fun building with Zarude, and just it has so much flexibility. So yeah, Zarude is looking really good into this matchup, because if you honestly look at his team, like his Dark Switch-ins are Slitherwing that again I can just set up on, and it becomes like way easier. Then we have Choice Scarf Pecharunt. I looked at the matchup and I was like, I don't really know what Pecharunt does for me in this game, to be honest. Like, it defensively doesn't really check anything. Like, I could go like full Fizdef for Palafin, but it didn't seem like that was the correct thing to do. And then I just sort of like realized that they don't really have a great like Shadow Ball switch in. Once that Chi-Yu Terras, everything takes like neutral damage or super effective damage from Shadow Ball. So it just felt like a Choice Scarf Pecharunt could potentially catch them off guard. Could catch their Pecharunt off guard as well. Malignant Chain, if they don't bring the Fortress, is also very spammable. We have Parting Shot to be able to enable Zarude setup a little bit easier, and then Destiny Bond just to see if we can pick up a surprise kill. We got the Spadef like screens, Klefki with the eject button, and Play Rough to be able to hit the Latios for as much damage as possible. I think the switcheroo was because I didn't really need another move here. Like, I could have potentially gone Thunder Wave, yes, but I didn't feel like it was super necessary, just because I had Choice Scarf Iron Valiant that would be able to like reliably like check everything that I needed to check offensively. So I went with Switcheroo because in mocks, like Choice Scarf Latios has a pretty free trick into a very telegraphed Klefki. So if they end up doing that, I can just switcheroo it onto something else, and then I'll be fine there. The eject button was actually supposed to be like a one-time switch into Zarude, because if you look at my team, like I think Dark Pulse is more spammable than a fire move is, honestly, especially once I bring the Lantern and they see it. So I was kind of just hoping that I would be able to switch in Klefki on the Chi-Yu. I'd get hit with the Dark Pulse. I could calc if it was Specs or if it was Scarf, get some momentum that way, and then I could play around it accordingly. But we'll see if that ends up playing out. And then we have full Fizdef Lantern with the Citrus Berry, because of course we had to. Discharge Scald, Flip Turn, Thunder Wave. this is a pretty decent Palafin check. Like, if it's banded, it can't really lock into a water move, obviously. If it's bulk up, then it can't really beat me 1v1. The one thing that did beat my ass in Mox was like a Spadef weakness policy set with Palafin, because Lantern obviously doesn't do that much damage. So with Lantern, I think when I'm in front of Palafin, I will always Thunder Wave it, just so I can buy a little bit more time and like scout the set. Because if I see something like close combat, then I'm just going to assume it's not weakness policy. But if I see like bulk up, drain punch, and I calc it and it doesn't have much attack investment, then that might become a little bit like tougher to deal with. So I will just probably have to flip turn and go into my Zarude or something and deal with it that way. So that is something that we have to be super careful with our Lantern. But with that being said, that's the team, and we're just going to go ahead and get into the game right now. So he basically brought the 6 I expected, to be honest. Like, the Slithering, again, I knew it was going to come, but I wasn't really scared by it, like, at all, because like my Zarude just beats it 1v1, so I didn't really see it as like a long-term check. Same thing with my Fortress. Like, I assumed these were the 6 that were going to come. Gastrodon, maybe if they were scared of the Pecharunt, but realistically it sucks into everything else. And then the other thing that they didn't bring was their own Pecharunt, which I guess that makes sense, but if that came over the Slithering, I would not be too surprised at all. But like I said, the plan is going to lead with our Garchomp, and we are just going to click Earthquake, except we see a Slitherwing lead, and I assumed that Will-O-Wisp was going to come off, so I just go out into my Pecharunt, because this gives me a pretty free Shadow Ball into the lack of a real Ghost Resist. We do crit the Fortress, and it ends up popping the red card and switches us out into Garchomp. So that was actually possibly like best case scenario for us to go out into that guy. I mean, if we got into the root, it wasn't going to be that bad either. But essentially, this way we can like reset from turn 1, and this just gives me a free Earthquake. Like I said, Earthquake was always going to be my click turn 1, because I could very well see this Hatterene just come in and potentially want to bounce back the Stealth Rock. So that's what I do. We do Earthquake, does 46%, shows that it's full Fizz Def, and I just click Earthquake again, and we crit through the Hatterene, which obviously did matter. But the reason I clicked Earthquake there is because at worst, Hatterene clicks Trick Room, right? And if it's like Draining Kiss, then it gets hit by Rough Skin and I can kill it with the Earthquake anyway. So I didn't really see a reason for me to switch out there and just give a Hatterene a free turn, because if Hatterene gets a free turn and starts going for Calm Mind or Trick Room, then the game can become a little bit dicier, and I just wanted to avoid that all around. We do get a little bit lucky and get the crit, and what this does is this allows him to bring the Latios. But if you paid attention to the team builder, we are actually Habanberry, and we can take a hit from this Latios no matter what. I think there's a small roll that Timid Specs kills us. If he's Modest Specs, he just straight up kills us, but I don't think Modest Specs is a bring here. If he's Timid Specs, I think he has like a 6% chance to kill, and if it does, then at least I know that he's that, and then I can go into my Iron Valiant, or I can go into my Klefki. I can just do a bunch of things, but I'm gonna opt in just to click Scale Shot. They actually over predict and just click Luster Purge, so we land the Scale Shot, and as long as we can get 3 hits, this Latios is gone, and it is gone. So turn 5, immediately, we are up 6-4. We don't have our rocks up, but essentially the only thing we've really traded is 80%, 70% on our Garchomp, and we've killed potentially 2 of their bigger threats. So I was feeling really good at this point of the game. So we do get the speed boost, which means they have to go out into Palafin to be able to revenge kill me, and this gives us a free switch into our Lantern, which is great. Now I think this turn I just click T-Wave because that was the plan all along. Yep, we catch the Chi-Yu, which is actually great, because if this thing is scarfed, then my Garchomp and my Zarude are not going to be able to outspeed it, which is so nice. So great turn for me there. Now the plan was always to go into Klefki in front of a Lantern. I am expecting a Dark Pulse to come off, especially because I could just potentially take this opportunity to sack off my Garchomp, and I don't know if they would want to click Overheat and put themselves at a -2. So we're going to make the play out into the Klefki after a little flip turn, and they do end up just clicking Overheat, and that just kills with the crit. I think even Timid, like, Scarf Overheat kills me anyway, so that crit really didn't matter at all. It is a little bit annoying that we got that play wrong and they went for the Overheat, because if I got the Dark Pulse and I got a free switch into my Iron Valiant, we just click Moonblast and we like pick up a kill on something. So unfortunately that didn't work out, but to be honest, not that big of a deal, because Klefki was mainly there for the Latios, and Latios is dead anyway. So this gives me the opportunity of just going into my Terra Water Zarude, Terraing and clicking Swords Dance and just threatening everything immediately. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to click Terra Blast. We're going to do about 50% to this Fortress as it goes for a Pounce, which lowers my speed by 1, which is, I would say it's a mild inconvenience. It really doesn't put that big of a stop to Zarude, honestly. Like, it makes it a little bit annoying, but it's a mild inconvenience, really. So we're just going to be able to pick up the kill on this Fortress. not too big of a deal. We're up 5-3 now. They're going to bring in Slithering. Again, if I wanted to, I could just stay in and I can just absolutely beat this thing 1v1, but I'm going to just opt to make the switch out into Pecharunt because Will-O-Wisp is very obvious here, but they do end up going for the U-turn, so they catch me there. If I had gone for a Bulk Up, I'm pretty sure I would have just won the, oh, not a Bulk Up, a Swords Dance. Pretty sure I just win the game from there, but they catch me on the U-turn, so it's fine. Like, Pecharunt coming in for free here is okay because I actually need a little bit more damage on this Chi-Yu so that Moonblast kills this guy 100% of the time. So we're going to go ahead and click Destiny Bond trying to catch the Chi-Yu, but he ends up switching out. I'm not really sure why he did that because Dark Pulse is such a free click into my team. So I'm a little confused as to why he did that and why this was the switch in, because if I click like Malignant Chain, which arguably I should have done because it would have guaranteed me the damage, I guess I got a little bit greedy and wanting to go for the Destiny Bond, just take Chi-Yu out of the game completely, but didn't happen. Now, unfortunately, the next turn I do misclick and I click Destiny Bond, which sucks. I wanted to go out into my Garchomp and sack my Garchomp, but I misclicked. We are going to do that on the next turn as they switch out into my Palafin. So a couple of like weird plays that I'm not exactly sure what they were doing here. They can just click Close Combat on my Lantern, but as you can see, we take that. So that's not Bandit or anything. I think in the end he ended up being Rindo Berry, but I didn't have any grass coverage anyway, so it didn't matter. The Citrus Berry puts us out of range of another Close Combat, gives us the opportunity to just Thunder Wave the Palafin and not, you know, really like proc a weakness policy. The moment I saw Close Combat, the weakness policy sort of like went out the window because I really wasn't expecting him to be, but we just clicked the Thunder Wave anyways in case he wanted to switch in his Slitherwing. I should have just gone for a discharge there no matter what. That's what we do next turn, and we get the pair on the Slitherwing. But we can sack our Garchomp now, and basically all I wanted to do at this point was sack something so I could bring in my Iron Valiant, so I can click Moonblast, and I can pick up kills. So this Palafin is going to end up taking 43%, which shows to be like around max HP, but that's okay because we just have our Lantern that we can go out into again. And now that this thing is paralyzed, even if it went for a close combat, it couldn't Jet Punch me the next turn, so I can just pick it off with a discharge anyways. So was a really safe play for me to make. They click Flip Turn and we get back to full HP, which basically this puts the game on lock. Like there's no way I can lose this game from here. They go for close combat. They switch out again, give me more health on their Slitherwing, which is great. I discharge, go back into Pecharunt. We just sack this thing again. It's just a matter of me sacking Pecharunt, getting into Iron Valiant, and clicking Moonblast 3 times. But they keep switching, so I'm like just kill me. I'm just trying to, you know, just like let this guy go down so I can go into my Iron Valiant and sweep. But the fact that he went to Chi-Yu here is actually great for me because I think it was a roll at 74% or 71% for my Iron Valiant to kill with a Moonblast. So that little bit of chip damage basically ensured that Iron Valiant just cleans up the game, and that's what you're going to see happen right here. We're going to Moonblast 3 times. I probably should have mentioned that Chi-Yu was Tera Flying. A little bit of a weird bring. I didn't fully understand it either, but Iron Valiant is able to just click Moonblast 3 times, clean up the game, and we pick up a win for Team Portugal and Team UK, and we are now 1-0. Now, in potentially what could be considered the biggest upset of the tournament, we actually end up beating Team UK 5-3, which is something that I was not expecting at all. Like, Team UK was definitely one of the top contenders of actually winning this entire thing. So the fact that we were able to upset them week 1 puts us in a really good spot going forward, because we either need to one more win and we're making it out of the pool stage, or a tie and a couple of other results go our way, we make it out of the pool stage, which is not something I thought was going to be possible at all. So really good week 1 for Team Portugal, really good week 1 for me. I felt like I was pretty in control of this entire game. Right from the start, the game plan worked perfectly well. A couple of I could have played better when I clicked Destiny Bond. I could have just clicked Malignant Chain or whatever, but all in all, very happy with how I played week 1. Now let's get into week 2. All right, now week 2 was up against Team US Midwest, and we played Zio Trip, who is actually somebody I played in a Gen 3 tournament I played a few months ago that I might still upload a Draft League movie on as well, because I did really well in that Gen 3 tournament, and it was a pretty fun experience, so I might end up doing that. Let me know if you guys do want to see that. But this team was definitely a little bit scarier than the first team. I don't know why, but there's another random Slitherwing here with no sun or anything, so just it seems like Slitherwing was just slapped onto this team or whatever, because it doesn't really fill any hole that I think would be needed, but whatever, that's beside the point. This team was definitely a lot scarier than the first one, because Tera and Amorous, if it's Tera Ground, it kind of just two-shots everything on my team, and that's really scary going into this game. Meowscarada is always a dangerous Pokemon, but I do have a Klefki, and funnily enough, I have a Pecharunt that also can kind of deal with the Meowscarada, so that's really fun. Iron Treads is a pretty good spinner. That Pecharunt also, spoilers, beats 1v1, which is fun. Uxie's just a fat, you know, annoying Pokemon that can, you know, Thunder Wave, set up rocks, all that good stuff. Volcanion was actually one of the scarier things because I did not bring Lantern in this matchup, and a lot of the times Volcanion can kind of just like click a button and do like 50% to something on my team. So I was really, really scared about that. Not to mention it's also a pretty good like Iron Valiant like answer if it's sort of like a defensive set, and depending on what set I end up going with, that could be pretty annoying. Terra Belly Bolt could be annoying, and then Arbok I saw once in a mock for Iron Valiant. I guess that makes sense, but again, bulky poisons just hate my team really, so that should make Iron Valiant's job much, much easier. Now looking at the team that I ended up bringing, we are just bringing our top 6 this week, and I'm pretty content with that because I feel like it sort of gave us the best chance into this matchup. We're going to start off with our Zarude, and we're going to go Terra Fairy. Even though they do have a Iron Treads, if you look at my team, they don't really have much of a reason to have like Heavy Slam or Iron Head. The only reason they would have that is if they are Choppleberry as a lure to my Iron Valiant, because outside of that, I don't really see any reason. So we kind of just banked on steel coverage not coming, and we went with Terra Fairy on Zarude. And this is a Spadef Zarude because it also takes on the Enamorus pretty dang well. Enamorus cannot 2-hit KO me with Moonblast, which is great. And this time we opted in for Bulk Up. And then we are just knock off Terra Blast Fairy because that does pretty good against the team. As you can see, like his fairy resists are Volcanion and Arbok, and we can just knock off those guys. Arbok could be a little bit more of an annoying problem, but we do have jungle healing once again, just in case, you know, the Belly Bolt paralyzes me or the Volcanion like burns me or whatever. The Uxie can have Thunder Wave, so we ended up going with a Spadef jungle healing set Zarude that can pretty much win the game if we position it correctly. Our Iron Valiant is a mixed set with booster energy. I didn't really have any item that I wanted on Iron Valiant this time around, so I just decided to go with a booster energy speed, because if Enamorus ended up being Choice Scarf, it was going to be faster than my entire team, and I definitely wanted to have something that I could do about that. Now, I think Enamorus locking itself into a specific move could be quite difficult for them, unless it's Terra Stellar. Terra Stellar could actually be a pretty big problem. But yeah, we decided to go with a more mixed offensive Iron Valiant. Moonblast Close Combat basically hits everything. I didn't feel the need to run coverage like Thunderbolt or like Knockoff or Shadow Ball for like Uxie and Volcanion at all. I just felt like those two moves were the best. We have Vacuum Wave because that allows us to pick off a Meowscarada, allows us to pick off a Iron Treads if it's Rapid Spun, and just priorities just in general good against this team. Last move was Psyshock in case we saw like a Terra Poison Enamorus, even though I don't think that was going to show up, but like Psyshock was also good for an Arbok if it decided to show up. I didn't need any other move there. I could have gone Encore, I could have gone Destiny Bond, I could have done a bunch of different things, but honestly Moonblast plus Close Combat as a revenge killer is all Iron Valiant needed. We then have our Spadef Mesprit, which this was actually the check to the Enamorus, even though it's not a Fairy Resist. It just did the best into Terra Ground, honestly. We are full Spadef with the Citrus Berry. We avoid any type of 2-hit KOs. We can hit it with Ice Punch, and we do like 60%. Because Calm Mind Enamorus was actually something that was kicking my butt in mocks when I was just like Thunderbolt, Ice Beam. So I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to go Ice Punch anyways. It's not like I need any of the speed, so we went at minus speed nature. Main purpose of Mesprit here is deal with the Enamorus. If Enamorus is dealt with, we can go ahead and we have the Healing Wish possibility for like Zarude and Iron Valiant. We then, once again, we have a screens on Klefki. We are Rocky Helmet this time around because of the Meowscarada. We can basically punish whatever it wants to do. If it clicks Knockoff in its pads, then at least we have that information. Spikes is also pretty decent because Iron Treads, their Rapid Spinner, actually loses to our Pecharunt 1v1, which is hilarious. But yeah, Spike's pressures are like really good in this game. Pecharunt spin blocks Iron Treads, even though it doesn't have the type matchup, because we are Air Balloon, so we can switch in pretty freely on a Rapid Spin or an Earthquake, and then from there we just spam Shadow Ball. We can 3-hit KO it unless it's AV, and it cannot 3-hit KO us, or I think it 3-hit no, it can't 3-hit KO us, I think, if we come in clean on a switch in, so that's pretty nice. And we also have Recover, so we can like 1v1 it if we want anyways. And then last but not least is a Roselli Berry Garchomp with a lot of bulk, because we don't really need much speed into this team. Like, Uxie doesn't run speed. Slitherwing is going to be defensive if it comes here. Like, realistically, all we need to hit is like Volcanion, so I think that's what we're hitting. And then we are Roselli Berry with the Poison Jab and with the Earthquake, just as a lure for the Enamorus, because if it's if we want to stay in on like a Moonblast and we can Poison Jab it, we can do like 70-something%, and after rocks that might be dead, or we can put it in range of like Vacuum or whatever. But Garchomp's main role here realistically is to get up the Stealth Rocks, so we can put on offensive pressure as much as we'd like. It's not like they switch in great into it. Like, obviously Uxie is there, so we can like like Dragon Claw it, but any chip damage for Iron Valiant is good chip damage. All right, so looking at the game now, so they didn't bring their Slithering, so I think they made the correct call here because as you saw from week 1, Slithering doesn't really beat my Zarude anyway, so it doesn't really make much sense to be here. They brought the Belly Bolt instead, which is interesting. Now I'm going to go ahead and look at the Tera type. So our Tera type, obviously, as you know, on the Zarude was Tera Fairy, because if you look at the team, nothing really deals well with Tera Fairy Zarude. I don't think Iron Tread is going to have the steel coverage, so that's fine. They did end up going with Tera Ground and Amorous, which was the most obvious Tera type. Like I like Tera Stellar maybe could have come, but Ground was definitely the one I was expecting the most, and then Tera Fairy Zarude could Belly Bolt could be a little bit annoying, but I'm fully expecting them to Tera the Enamorous. If they don't Tera the Enamorous, then the game gets a lot easier. So yeah, the lead of choice is going to be our Garchomp because, again, we want to get up hazards for switches so that either Zarude or Iron Valiant can win the game. They end up leading with Meowscarada, and this is an easy switch into Klefki, but they actually show off the trick, and now we are tricked a Choice Scarf, which is annoying, but I think we are just going to opt to like trade Spikes here. I'm honestly okay with this trade because I feel like Spikes is worse for them than it is for me personally, just because I feel like their strategy relies more on like defensively checking my guys than mine does realistically. But knowing that they were just going to spam Spikes because I do not have removal, and that's like the obvious thing to do, I just went hard into my Zarude because now that this thing is a Psychic type, I have a pretty free knockoff here. And if Volcanion or Belly Bolt wants to come in and they lose their item, if they happen to be Boots, then that's chip damage that they take on the switch in. So that's what we do. They set up a second layer of Spikes. We are just going to go ahead and Tera, I think. Do we Tera? I'm not sure if we Tera already. Yeah, we do Tera straight away. We click knockoff, and this guy was actually leftover. So in a 1v1 now, I will definitely be able to beat this Belly Bolt, which is great. I think I'm just going to go ahead and set up a bulk up just to try to scout what this thing wants to do. He turns out that he is Toxic, and he's also Reflect, but I'm okay with being Toxic because I have Jungle Healing, so I don't really mind this interaction at all. They click Slack off there. I think they should have just clicked Reflect realistically there, but they are going to click it on the next turn as I Jungle Healing, so that's going to cancel out the Reflect, but this still allows me to just continuously go for bulk up. Now they're going to Volt Switch, and they're going to switch out into something, but what really can they switch out into? Like, I am Spadef, right, on Zarude, so if this Volcanion happens to be packing the Sludge Bomb, I'm more than willing to take damage on Zarude to be able to knock off the boots from this Volcanion, as you can see, so that my Iron Valiant has an easier time at potentially winning the game. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to click knockoff, do 36%, as they do go for the Sludge Bomb. That really does nothing, but they do get the poison, which is obviously a little bit annoying, but we saw that just did, what was it, 38%? Whoops, 38%. Yeah, so if I want to, realistically, my Zarude can set up all over this Volcanion, but I don't think that's going to be the best course of action. I'm actually just going to take this opportunity to go onto the Garchomp, and we are able to set up our Stealth Rocks here. Iron Treads comes in, but that's okay with me. They are also ballooned, but my plan was just to set up rocks so I could go onto my own Petron and Spin Block, and they just go for their own rocks. I'm okay with this exchange. They're going to go for Ice Spinner, so they didn't seem to have knockoff or anything, and I'm just going to go ahead and spam Shadow Ball, and as you can see, they are not Assault Vested, so we will be able to 1v1 this Iron Treads, which is actually hilarious. We're gonna lose our Petra in this exchange, but I am so okay with that because this hazard damage is going to go a long way. We're gonna sack off our Petron, of course. Maybe if they missed there, that would actually been hilarious, but doesn't matter. We go on to our Booster Energy Iron Valiant, and this is a pretty free Moonblast here. Now, the reason I did this with my Iron Valiant instead of potentially saving the Booster Energy and going out into something else is because if an Amorous is Scarfed, I feel like I can defensively deal with it between Roselli on this guy and Klefki and a Mesprit. I feel like I could defensively deal with it. Now that I know that this Meowscarada is no longer Choice Scarfed, I don't really need this Booster Energy all that much, and I can use Valiant as like a mid-game breaker, and if I want to, I can then Healing Wish later in the game. So that's what we did. We just clicked Moonblast, 32%, pretty decent damage for Yuxi. But I am forced to switch out here. I kind of went onto my Garchomp just expecting them to potentially go for like a U-turn and just get like, you know, rough skin damage on this guy, because any bit more chip and he's 2 AK out on the switching by Iron Valiant, but they go for a Psychic, but I'm okay with that. We can just go ahead and click Dragon Claw. We can get a little bit more chip damage here. They actually revealed to be Citrus Berry, so my influence is clearly spreading, and they're going to take out our Garchomp. So I decided to go onto my Klefki on the following turn, and now that Klefki is kind of just like, you know, choice locked, I'm going to spam Play Rough because I I don't really have any other like reliable way of like dealing damage to the Uxie, and I need that thing just a little bit more chipped. So we do get the play rough on it, which is nice, but then they bring in the belly bolt. Honestly, belly bolt, not really that big of a problem. If it wants to go and click Volt Switch, then, you know, it clicks Volt Switch. There's nothing really that my Mesprit is scared of. There's the Meowscarada, but again, I can just go out to Klefki, if he happens to click knockoff and knock off my Scarf, then that's a pretty good exchange for me. But they get up their final arrow spikes. Honestly, I'm okay with this because at this point, my game plan is we Healing Wish up our Zarude and we basically win the game because everything is in range and the Enamorus hasn't come out yet. So I have a feeling it's going to be Calm Mind, like sort of like a win condition, and we can kind of beat that guy 1v1. So that was the whole game plan from this point. It was just like Healing Wish up with Mesprit. We're going to, you know, just sort of like exchange blows here. They click Triple Axle because they don't want to knock off my Scarf, but Play Rough does 40% to this Meowscarada, which is actually insane damage from Klefki. Was not expecting that, obviously, because it is Rocky Helmet, we're going to end up killing ourselves, and this is going to be a double down, but this is the perfect opportunity for me to go out into my Mesprit once again, because this basically covered for anything that they wanted to do. If they wanted to go Enamorus, then this is my check to it anyways. We are getting a little bit weakened, which is a little scary for the Enamorus, but we do have a Citrus Berry that's not yet popped, so pretty okay with that. Click Thunder Wave because I'm not really in a position where I can like switch out into anything no matter what. So we just kind of have to do that. And thankfully, they go out into their Enamorus. And this is perfect because I saw leftovers. I'm like, okay, this guy is definitely Calm Mind. I'm just going to click Moonblast because if he clicks like Moonblast twice, he kills my Mesprit. But I can just go Iron Valiant and I revenge it. And then from there, like, Iron Valiant looks pretty good into everything else. All my Tera Zarude needs to do is get in front of the Belly Bolt, and I just beat it 1v1 anyway, so I wasn't really concerned about this situation here. But as you can see, they're going to Tera Ground, they're going to go for Calm Mind, but for some reason, they end up being contrary on this guy. I think their captain said that this was Assault Vested, and then they changed the set to Calm Mind, but they didn't change the ability. This realistically didn't matter at all, because I live a +1 Moonblast anyways, and I can click Ice Punch, and then from there, it's in range of like Iron Valiant. So it's funny, but it really didn't end up mattering. I think the game was pretty sealed at this point. What it is going to allow me to do is take out this guy, right? Because I'm going to be able to go ahead and kill it. I would have lived. You see, that does 22%. That's just fucking nothing. But we kill this Enamorus, and now what this gives us the opportunity to do is go out into... we can Healing Wish our Zarude, basically, is what I was trying to say, in front of this Belly Bolt. And this is the perfect contender because... we just go ahead and bulk up. We have Jungle Healing, and there's nothing that this combination of 3 Pokemon he has left can do to beat me. He can set up Reflect all he wants, but with bulk up plus Jungle Healing, Zarude is basically just going to win the game from here. They're going to Volt Switch out into their Volcanion, but that's actually not going to end up mattering because we can just go ahead and click Knockoff. We don't kill, but as you can see, this Volcanion is doing 38%, so thankfully we don't get the poison there, but I could just kill it on the next turn anyways, and then whatever comes in, be it the Uxie or the Belly Bolt, it's a free, like, healing, Jungle Healing or whatever. So Zarude is just going to go ahead and pack this game up. I'm going to go ahead and take a sip of water while you guys look at this Zarude Masterclass. Yeah, so we just knock off, we kill the Uxie, and then the Belly Bolt comes in, and he's actually just going to forfeit because there's nothing that the Belly Bolt could do. So we actually win 2-0. This game definitely wasn't as clean as the other one. The lead Meowscarada tricking me definitely was a little bit of a problem for us, but I feel like we navigated that mid to end game pretty well in a position where we can just like Healing Wish our Zarude back up and win the game from there. So we are 2-0. Now, unfortunately, the team did drop the ball this week, and we did end up losing, I think, 5-3. We could have had the chance of potentially tying it. It went to the last game, but we didn't tie it. And if we had tied it, then maybe going to the last week, we could have like lost and still make it. But now that we lost this week, the last week is definitely going to have to be either a win or a draw with a few things going our way. On a personal level, I'm 2-0 in DLWC, and that's really all I cared about going into this, to be honest. So let's see if we can go flawless and pick up a 3rd win in a row for Team Portugal. All right, so this is the final matchup of the group stage of the DLWC, and we're taking on Wagon Fruit from Team US South. I was pretty familiar with his team because last week I helped Addison with this with her game up against Wagon Fruit, and I actually mocked with his team, and it's definitely an interesting team. Again, it feels like a team with like leftover guys. I don't know, it feels like a little bit weird. But yeah, going into the matchup, I definitely feared a Tera Iron Boulder the most because that guy can be pretty snowbally. Like with a booster energy, if you let it get a sword stance, it can kind of just like clean up the game from there. I was kind of expecting Tera Fairy the most, but I could see something like Tera Ground, Tera Electric just to dodge like Thunder Waves from my Klefki. I said Tera Fairy just because it matches up pretty well into my top 3. Like Garchomp can be a pretty natural check to Iron Boulder, but if it's Tera Fairy, that obviously makes it way harder to do. So I could expect Ground or Fairy would be the 2 that I'm expecting the most. Kyurem, if it's choice specs, can be kind of problematic for the team just because although I do have a Crocodile and a Lantern, I'm not bringing any of those 2 to this matchup. So if it gets the predictions right versus my Klefki and stuff like that, then Specs Kyurem can be a pretty big problem. So we're going to have to pay attention to that for sure. It can even run Modest in this matchup, honestly, if it wants. It just hits super hard. So getting up rocks will be kind of important just to sort of figure out what type of Kyurem we are dealing with. Glowking is a pretty decent Iron Valiant check. We are running a mixed Valiant, as you'll see in the team builder again, so hopefully we're able to break through that guy. Metagross is also a pretty decent Iron Valiant check, and something that I discovered this week was that my only steel resist is Lantern, and I'm not bringing Lantern, so if this is like a choice band in Metagross, I might have to sack a Pokemon every time it comes in. So that's going to be super annoying. Blastoise as a Shell Smasher, it showed up in a few of the mocks. I'm not super worried about it. Well, we do have some tech for it. Crocodile is, I guess, interesting in this game. If it doesn't come, I wouldn't be too shocked just because it doesn't really beat any of my top 3. Like, I guess if it's like physically defensive, it can like kind of deal with the Garchomp, but I wasn't really expecting it. Tornadus came into like every mock, and I guess it kind of makes sense because my flying resist is a Klefki and I can just heat wave it. But I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm scared of it or not. Like, it is obviously faster than like 90% of my team. Like, only Iron Valiant's faster, but I'm not exactly sure if Tornadus is something that I should be super fearful of here. And then Chestnut, like a couple of people tried to bring it as a Zarude check. It's a pretty good Zarude check for the Zarude set I'm bringing, but generally speaking, Chestnut does pretty bad into the matchup, so I'm not really expecting that thing to come at all. So we'll look at the team that we have brought for the final week, and we are, like I said, a mixed offensive Life Orb Iron Valiant with Shadow Ball plus Knockoff. Basically, I can click Knockoff and Shadow Ball depending on the Glow King set. Like, if it's Culver Berry, then the next time we come in, we can just kind of like click Shadow Ball twice because it would be more physically defensive. Or if it's more specially defensive, we can click Knockoff twice. So we have ways of like dealing with the Glow King that way. Vacuum Wave is pretty nice into like, so that our Bullet Punch Metagross can't revenge kill me. I do like 30% to a max HP Metagross, which is pretty decent damage. And if the boulder ends up being something like Tera Ground, then Iron Valiant can still do like 30% with Vacuum Wave anyways. Moonblast is like super spammable into their team, honestly. Like, their Moonblast resist are 2 guys that get hit by Shadow Ball and Knockoff, so I feel like Iron Valiant has a pretty good offensive matchup here. The Zarude set of choice this week was a little bit of a faster set, but we did end up going with Tera Water, and that's because, like I said, I don't have a switch into Metagross, so if he clicks a Steel-type move, it's going to be very bad for me. But we ended up going with Knockoff, Tera Blast, Bulk Up, and Synthesis this week. I did think about potentially running Jungle Healing just because the Glow King can poison me, but outside of that, there's nothing else that really like statuses me. And his team does a lot of damage, so I feel like I want the Synthesis in this matchup in particular. The only thing that the Zarude could be kind of annoyed by is a Kyurem set, if it's like Scarf with Freeze Dry, but looking at my team, I don't know why they would bring Freeze Dry. Like, I guess if they don't need a 4th move, they could bring it, but like, Dual Stabs plus Earth Power kind of hits everything, so maybe they run Dragon Pulse plus Draco Meteor or something like that. I don't know. I was kind of hoping they wouldn't bring Freeze Dry because I don't see much of a reason for them to do it. If they do, then we will have to play around it and at least scout for it. Then we have a Garchomp set. Now, this was the exact same set that Addison brought against Wagon Fruit week 2 when they played. And this is the set that I decided to bring as well because if you look at their team, they have a pretty hard time at switching into Garchomp, right? Like, their ground resist is a Chestnut and a Tornadus. Like I said, Chestnut is just not a real Pokemon in this matchup. I refuse to believe it. And the Tornadus doesn't really switch into Scale Shot all that well. And on top of that, it gives me a pretty good like last ditch check to boost their energy on Iron Boulder, a Shell Smash on Blastoise, like a Choice Scarf, Kyurem. So there's a few good different applications for Garchomp here. So if we can set up a Swords Dance and something tries to revenge kill us, I can endure, and then like that thing can't revenge kill me anymore, and that's pretty good. So shout out to Addison for the set. I think the main thing was that a Boulder would be try to come in to revenge kill us, and we can just endure and like blow it back. And then if they end up switching out because they are scared of dying, then they won't have the booster energy, so they can't really revenge me. So yeah, that was the idea. Then we have a offensive Petront with Mirror Herb. Honestly, Petront felt like it was a type of a luxury mon in this matchup. And what I mean with that is that like it doesn't really do anything, but neither did any of my other guys. So I was like, you know what? I'll just bring a Mirror Herb in case they bring Shell Smash Blastoise, because I can Rapid Spin on it. And if they decide to go for a Shell Smash, offensive Petront actually has a pretty spectacular matchup in this game, because even Crocodile, like if it's like max HP, gets to it KO'd by my stabs, and because I'm a Petront and Crocodile isn't that strong, they don't kill me with Earthquake. So potentially Petront could do something in that regard. If not, then I don't know. I'm just clicking Shadow Ball because they don't have the greatest Shadow Ball resist anyway. So that's that. Then we have our leftovers Klefki. Now this is a mixed defensive set. This is probably going to be the main answer to Iron Boulder. We do have the Magnet Rice tech here. I don't think they would run close combat in this game, honestly. Like Terra Fighting close combat, I guess they could do that, but I feel like they run like Terra Fairy or Terra Ground and they just run Earthquake. So that's a pretty good matchup for our Klefki here, because we can Magnet Rise on it. And then depending on the Terra type, we can like Dazzling Gleam it. We can Foul Play it if it's Sword Stanced up, and we can like do about like 40% to it. And then we have Spikes just for, you know, some chip damage. So we're not bringing Green's Klefki, but arguably this is the most important Klefki matchup we have had all tournament. And then we have our dedicated lead, which is going to be Mesprit. Because it does pretty well into everything they decide to lead off with. Like they don't have a good way of killing my Mesprit, and with the coverage I have, Shadow Ball, Dazzling Gleam, Thunderbolt, I basically hit everything pretty dang hard, and I can get information on the Slowking set if anything, so I'm pretty happy with that. Then we get up rocks, but yeah, it's a good lead. Like nothing kills me, and I get up my rocks, and I get up a bunch of damage. So that's the Mesprit set there. Okay, so this is a very, very important game, right? Because I think at this point my team is down in the series 2-4. Or 1-4. I think we were down 1-4 at this point. So with 3 games left, if we want to have any chance at making it through the play-ins, we absolutely need to win all of our remaining games. So the pressure was on, definitely, because if I lose, then our team is just straight out, and that would not be a very great feeling. Looking at the team they brought, they benched the Blastoise and the Chestnut. Chestnut, not surprised at all. Blastoise, a little bit annoying because I'm not even going to be able to like show off my Mirror Herb tech on my Petront, which is annoying. But they did bring the Tornadus, which I guess is fair, and then everything else is pretty standard for the most part. But like I said, dedicated lead is going to be our Mesprit, and we lead into a Tornadus, which is okay with me, because a lot of the times what people did in mocks was they led Tornadus expecting like a Klefki or a Mesprit lead, and they just clicked Prankster Taunt. So obviously what I'm going to do is, instead of falling for that bait, I'm just going to go ahead and click Thunderbolt, and we're going to be able to 2-hit KO this Tornadus, which is great. Now they do end up being Citrus Berry, so my influence is clearly spreading. But what I did this turn is I'm like, Thunderbolt isn't going to kill them anyways. I may as well just click Dazzling Gleam in case they try to like pivot into Crocodile and catch me, because I can just Dazzling Gleam into Thunderbolt on the Tornadus anyway. So that's what we're going to do, and we do end up catching the Crocodile. So pretty good solid turns for us. We do 48%, potentially a roll, but I am going to take this opportunity to just get up my rocks because I really do want them. Actually, I do just go for another Dazzling Gleam. I think it's the, oh, because I was still taunted. Anyways, guys, pretend I didn't say that. I knew I could take a hit anyways because I was Culver Berry, but pretend I didn't say that. Now we're going to get up our rocks as they go on to Slowking. But what this means is, one, this Crocodile is dead on switch in. This Tornadus is taking rocks because it proved to be Citrus Berry, and we get information on the Kyurem, which is excellent. Now, with this Slowking, like I said, Mesprit's basically done what it had to do. Honestly, I don't see anything else for Mesprit to do here, so I'm just going to go ahead and click Shadow Ball. I'm just trying to get information on this Slowking, really. It does show Slack Off, so we're not AV or any type of sorts, even though I knew that from the Shadow Ball damage. We're not Cassie Berry or anything. Most likely, we're going to end up being Culver Berry, but that's fine. Like, Culver Berry is annoying because it makes this play here a little frustrating to make, because ideally I'd want to go out to Iron Valiant and just like revenge kill this thing, but I didn't quite kill with Shadow Ball from here based on the damage I had, and I could have gone Garchomp, but I also wasn't 100% sure if this thing was going to be Culver Berry or Yachi Berry. Like, if it's Yachi Berry and I go, not Yachi Berry, Shuka Berry, if I go Garchomp and I click Earthquake on a Shuka Berry Glowking, if it has Ice Beam, it just OHKOs me back. So that had a very big downside, while if I go into Zarude, I Terra, I get my Steel Resist out of the way as well, and they click Sludge Bomb and end up being Culver Berry, I don't lose that much. So that's exactly the sequence of plays I decided to go for. We click knockoff, we burn the Colbur Berry as they go ahead and click Sludge Bomb. Do they poison? Yes, they do, which is annoying because we don't have the jungle healing this time around, and we don't have any healing wish. So Zarude being the win con looks a little bit less likely, but I still have synthesis, and I can still, use this guy to like switch into a couple of different things. So we're gonna go ahead and click knockoff again. We're gonna kill this Slowking, which is great. They're gonna go on to Tornadus, but we are actually very specially defensive, as you can see in the team builder. So we live a Bleak Windstorm from here. I think even a Hurricane had a pretty like decent shot of not killing us because we are almost max HP with 116 inspa def. So with that in mind, and with Zarude being poisoned and me not having healing wish or jungle healing, I kind of valued my Zarude a lot less. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to take my kill on this Tornadus as they do hit the Bleak Wind. We do live, but we click the Tera Blast, and Zarude picks up 2 kills. Now, I can always go for a synthesis on a Crocodile Sack. I can go for a synthesis on a Metagross. Even a Kyurem, I can go for a synthesis and scout out their moveset. So it felt like it was a fine play. I just decided to take the kill that was in front of me. It's not like I switch into Tornadus anyways, so I wanted to preserve health on my Klefki in case I needed it, so I was perfectly fine with that play right there, to be honest. Now, they go into Metagross, and I suspected they were just going to go for a Bullet Punch and kill me, but they actually went for a Heavy Slam, so I was like, okay, that's a bit weird, but maybe they just like thought I was going to like save it anyways and didn't want to like click Bullet Punch as I went to Petra. But I'm going to click Recover, and they actually click Heavy Slam again, and they're faster. Now, because I'm a very fast Petra, I'm basically max speed, this reveals to me that this thing is Choice Scarfed, which is definitely an interesting bring. Like, I could see why they brought it, actually, because again, I don't have great steel resist, and now that my Zarude is down at 8%, I can't even synthesis on this guy. So this could be a bit of a problem. With that in mind, I just go ahead and I click my Shadow Wall knowing I could live, and we do about 70% to this guy, which is great because it puts it in range of Vacuum Wave from my Iron Valiant, which is awesome. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to go into Iron Valiant. No need to risk health on anything else. They sack off their Crocodile as we were revealed the Vacuum Wave, but honestly, that's fine. This is the opportunity they take to go out into Iron Boulder. And actually, I didn't mention, this is all new to me, guys. I'm not used to doing these like Draft League movies on Showdown and stuff, but they do end up being Terra Fairy on Iron Boulder, which explains why they would go out into it, because they have a pretty free Swords Dance. I can't kill this thing with any one hit, so this is where the battle could be a little bit dicey depending on the set that they have, but the plan is still very much there. We're going to go into Klefki as they click Swords Dance, and without hesitation, I clicked Magnet Rise so fast, and we do see that we do catch it on the Earthquake, which is great because this is going to force it out, which allows me to go ahead and click Foul Play, covering for a Metagross switch in, and we killed the Metagross, which is awesome because now the booster energy on this Iron Boulder is used. So if we get a Swords Dance up with our Garchomp and we click Scale Shot, we can endure and we can just kill this Iron Boulder without any problem whatsoever. Now, they go out into Kyurem because it kind of has to be their play. Like, Iron Boulder loses to this Klefki set anyways. So does Kyurem, to be fair. So they didn't really have a great play here. I'm just going to be like, okay, well, let me see what you have, because you can't click Earth Power. Like, are you going to click Flash Cannon or like Focus Blast? So I'm just going to say it, and I'm going to click Dazzling Gleam, get good chip damage off on this guy, and he actually goes for a Focus Blast, which is interesting. I was like, okay, let me sack my Zarude then, because this gives me the perfect opportunity for me to go out into my Garchomp and just kind of win the game. So I go ahead and I try to sack my Zarude, but they missed the Focus Blast. They are going to hit the following one, which proves to me that they are Choice Scarfed. So at this point, I had 2 possible plays. I could have gone into my Iron Valiant, clicked Moonblast, but that would bring the Iron Boulder in again, and then that would make it so like Earthquake is a very free click, and it would just make the game a little bit harder for me to win there. So I just decided, you know what, I'm going to go out into Garchomp, I'm going to click Scale Shot. If they go out into Iron Boulder, predicting my Scale Shot, that's perfectly okay, because I can just Earthquake it twice, so it won't really be that big of a problem. So that's exactly what we do. He does catch me on that, so good play by him, not allowing me to Scale Shot for free. But after much calculation, I was like, Terra Blast doesn't kill me from here, so I can just go ahead and click Earthquake, and then I can go out into my Klefki if I want after and just beat it 1v1, or I can go out into Iron Valiant if they do decide to go for Terra Blast, and I can just like Vacuum Wave or whatever. So I was like, okay, let me just go ahead and click Earthquake as they click Swords Dance, and that ends up being the correct play because I'm going to endure. I'm going to get my Custap. As you can see, we obviously take that, but they are clearly prepared for it because they are Quick Attack on this Iron Boulder. Now, I blame Addison because Addison brought this same exact set against them last week, so they clearly were prepared for it. So you know what, props to them. but this does give me a position where I can just go Iron Valiant, click Vacuum Wave twice. I live the quick attack, no problem. We click Vacuum Wave twice, and we go ahead and pick up another W. So we officially end the pool stage of the DLWC with a 3-0 record, which is perfect. Is exactly what I wanted going into it, just to sort of like prove myself. I know I didn't play any super top tier players, but these guys were all pretty decent. Like they're all pretty known in the community for like playing Draft League and everything. So I'm pretty happy with my performance overall. Unfortunately, my team did drop the ball again this week, and we ended up losing. I think it was 6-2, I think, or like 5-3, but we lost basically, which means we are out of the Draft League World Cup. So unfortunately, this is where the run ends for us. I really like my team. Obviously, how are you not going to like a team with Iron Valiant, Tera Zarude, and Garchomp? But I feel like the support pieces on him were really, really cool as well. So I'm definitely going to be looking to try to draft these guys a bit more going forward. And spoilers, the next Wi-Fi League we have, which starts in about a week's time, will have one of the members of this team on it, and it's one of the top 3, and I'll let you guys decide which one it was. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this Draft League World Cup movie. If you guys want to see more Draft League movies from me, let me know. I have a couple of other leagues that I've been playing in, and if you guys want to see my run in those leagues, let me know. But with that being said, please leave a like, subscribe. I'll be back very soon, and we'll have some Draft League action, and we're going to be ready to kick some ass and get some championships.